Being pointed out that Coates Cider doesn't exist anymore, but my grandfather's business does in the guise of me.
Hello, my name is Rio Windcaller, and I am the producer and cider MC of this weekly podcast, where we speak with makers, cider enthusiasts, and folks within the cider trade from around the world.
Hip, hip, hooray!
Bringing us into episode 470 of Cider Chat was Ben Crossman of Crossman Cider, which is based in Somerset, and he was talking about Coates Cider Company and leading us into one of the topics that I would like to delve into in this here episode, which is on the history of Coates Cider in the UK and how local makers to this day are entwined together all due to this one company, and also the topic of what makes one cider brand stick around and another to be swallowed up by larger companies. So stay tuned for that, because Ben is one of two featured Somerset cider makers that you'll be hearing from shortly. But first, we have a wee bit of news from out and about in Ciderville. Fall has arrived. It's 2025. This year episode's going live on September 24th. And that means that I'm just like a couple days from being back here in the United States from the United Kingdom and the cider tour there. And though last week you heard all about it from my guests, this week was my opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper and go like, well, what happened? Did that really happen? Like, what? Because it's kind of remarkable to me that it's kind of circled this way. And here we are doing these absolutely amazing Totally Cider tours. And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting while I was there in the UK was, in the US, we're almost like we're born in cars. We're a very, very car-focused economy. And one thing that is really noticeable in the US is that most of our roads, generally speaking, have shoulders. And that means that there's a place where you could pull over, and sometimes it's a full width of a car that you could pull over, and if you get stuck or you took the wrong turn, it's kind of easy to find not only a shoulder to pull over, but really large driveways. Let's face it, we have a lot of space that our roads take up, and that's why I'm saying that we are such a car culture. When you are in another landscape where you have much more constricted lanes, such as you would find in the West Country, where I was, it's a whole different scene, and you really have to get into a certain mindset. And one of the mindsets was as if I was a knight on a horse in a jousting match, because that's how cars approach each other there. You go screaming up the little backway roads, which are really one-lane roads, and maybe there's like a little tiny spot right next to the giant hedge row where you could tuck in while another car passes you. But for the most part, you're both coming at each other, and at the last moment, one of you might either fully stop or kind of just pull to the side as the other car goes by, and it really feels like a jousting match. And that also includes embracing the rotary, because there's a lot of rotaries there, and that's like a circle instead of having a traffic light there. And actually, I'm pretty good with rotaries. I'm used to them being in Europe, working over there for so many years, and then now we're seeing them more and more here in the U.S. But I did get thrown off on one rotary. It put me on the highway, and I had to go 17 miles out of my way to be able to finally get off an exit, because, of course, the exit that I could have taken to make it shorter was closed. So that all added about 40 extra minutes onto my travel that afternoon. But there was a cider waiting for me at the end of the day, so I was totally fine. But one more thing about the roads, because really it's all about travel, and these are little hints for you to think about how you're traveling to different regions of the world. And if there's a cider tour, you want to take that opportunity, because we didn't have the same trouble once we had a local coach driver bring us around. But the one other thing is detours. I found a lot of detours signs up. One when I was leaving Roger Wilkins and I was heading over to Cheddar. So this means I was in Somerset, which is south of Bristol. And Roger is based at Land's End Farm. And of course, that's kind of like the end of the world there. And I was trying to get back to Cheddar Gorge, and I saw a detour sign. And the detour sign, there'll just be one. And you're lucky if there's two. And after that, like, where really is a detour? It's hard to figure it out. So even if you have GPS and you have that all set up, if you don't pull over and take the time to kind of map out your route and figure out where that detour is or isn't, you're just going to be doing some circles around. And remember I said it's really hard to find a shoulder? That means it's hard to find a place even to pull over to figure out what I should do now that there's a detour. So that was kind of an interesting aha moment. And it happened not once, not twice, but probably about 3 or 4 times on my travels there, going about the region. As I said in last week's episode, what the title is Getting Lost So You Don't Have to. That's a little bit about what I do. In truth, I kind of don't mind it because it will find different spots that I then like to showcase on the tour. But it's kind of interesting when you're in the middle of it, and all you have to do is just go with the flow and not worry about it and just enjoy the ride and remember what the end goal is to get to that perfect glass. So that is my inspiration there. And hopefully it inspires you to think about how you want to next travel when you're going out and about in Ciderville. Now, not everybody has the time to get themselves lost, nor do you want to. So a great way to be able to visit different cider sites is to get on the Totally Cider Tour list. And that's a wait list and means that you get early release of reservations when they get open for an upcoming cider tour. And the next cider tour that I am right now in the planning with my colleague in France is for our tour to Paris, Normandy, and Brittany. And that's going to be taking place in September 2026. And we're narrowing it down to the week of September 20th. And I am pleased to announce that Joanna Sicilian and her husband Louis will be part of this tour. I am absolutely walking on air, having corresponded just a few days ago with Joanna. She is totally game for it. I interviewed her in episode 431. I'll have a link in the show notes to that one. If you love fine cider and want to enjoy that experience with what I consider one of the top makers out there, definitely you want to be on this tour. And when I was there last year, just last fall, I was able to visit her tasting room and we toured her biodynamic orchard in Brittany. This time, we're going to be having a cider dinner with Johanna. It's going to be one of our many cider dinners that we do that week. And I know they're really excited about it, as am I. So if you want to find out more about her and definitely get your name in on the tour, go to the show notes for this here episode. Go to ciderchat.com. And while you're there, I want to encourage you to become a patron, because patron members of Cider Chat via the Cider Chat Patreon page get first dibs to all Totally Cider tours. That means reservations, when they get open, those are the first folks who are able to sign up for it. Then it goes to the wait list that is growing now for the French tours and other tours also. So make sure you don't miss out on that. Send an email today to info@ciderchat.com. Put in the heading Cider Tour. Just let us know how many people are in your party, and we'll put you on that wait list for an upcoming tour. Or, for a surefire way to not miss out, sign up to become a patron today at the Cider Chat Patreon page. Just search for Cider Chat and Patreon. That's spelled Patreon. And we have a listener's email. In fact, this listener, this brand, just joined the Cider Going Up campaign at the Cider Chat Patreon page, which is a campaign designed to help brands promote their products on this platform. And some questions were sent to Kanga, and this is what we heard back. Who is Kanga? Well, they are a craft cider perry and mead makers producing unique Texas-style beverages with an Aussie twist. That's short for Australian twist. And they are located in Blue Ridge, Texas, which is northeast of Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Now, I maybe like me, you didn't know that there was something called a Metroplex, but that's a pretty sprawling city area, so I think that's what that's referring to. And there is a tasting room. It's currently under planning with a targeted opening day of Memorial Day weekend 2026. And this all came about when Rachel took a job that required a relocation to the North Dallas area. A 5.2-acre farm that had an existing orchard containing primarily pear, peach, and persimmon trees. My jaw just dropped to the ground. Pear, peach, and persimmon trees. I'm in heaven with that grouping right there. The orchard produced way more pears than they needed, and after kicking around some ideas, they landed on making pear cider, bought a fruit press and fermentation bottles, and the rest is history. These days, they have a small cidery with a few stainless steel tanks fermenting their drinks and a custom-built cold room. At Kanga, they take a craft-first approach with their ciders, perries, and meads, leveraging traditional methods, creating unique Texas-style products using predominantly Texas-sourced ingredients. That's wild. It's just wild when I hear that. I love it for all the Texans. You know, you down there, you deserve some good craft cider, perry, and mead. Heck yeah. Okay. The tasting room is slated to be open Memorial Day weekend 2026. So, well, you got to hold your thirst until then. And we know there'll be more coming out on that. We'll be keeping you in touch. And we always like to hear, well, you know, why join the Cider Going Up campaign as part of your process to being a startup? And Rachel wrote, Cider Chat has been instrumental in educating us on the cider business from multiple aspects, with the UK Cider Tour in 2025 being the capstone. The Cider Going Up campaign has a worldwide reach to producers, distributors, and enthusiasts that we feel are our target audience as we get this project off the ground. Oh, I always enjoy that good news. And like Kanga, you too can become part of the Cider Going Up campaign and get listed at ciderchat.com. We have a dedicated page, and you could join the likes of Ross-on-Wye Cider and Perry Company based in Ross-on-Wye in the United Kingdom, Duck Chicken Cider based in London, Esoterra Cider Works in Durango, Colorado, Bent Ladder Cider and Wine in Doylestown, Ohio, Press and Press, an online cider shop, the American Cider Association, Oliver's Cider and Perry Company based in Oaklepitcher in Herefordshire, Locust Grove Cider and Brewery in Milton, New York, and Heeman's Cellar in London, Ontario, Canada. Just go to ciderchat.com and you'll see the little link there that says Become My Patron on Patreon. And I have a little event I want to make mention of before we head to our featured presentation, and that is an apple pie bake-off taking place on October 4th. Judging begins at 4 p.m. This is all at Absalom Cidery, which is in Winthrop, Maine. This news came in via Carrie Ann Wilkins, who was on episode, let's see, what episode was that? 468, talking about who named this apple Northern Spy. That was a fun production with Carrie Ann. And she is a Maine resident who is just a total applehead. And our world is better because of her. And so when she sends something my way, I do want to make mention of this. And shoot, if I could get to that apple pie bake-off, you know I would. But I'm going to be at a wedding that day, so I can't. It is a season for apples and weddings. There you go. But do check it out. There'll be links in the show notes to that event. Once again, October 4th at Absalom Cidery in Winthrop, Maine.
Walking through the orchards.
Up next is our featured presentation. This was all pre-recorded in October of 2024. And this is a little bit different episode for me. It's one that I feel that is really important to get out there for a lot of reasons. One is, if you don't know, Cider Chat has the largest audio archive of cider in modern times right now, and also, of course, is looking at the history. So it's a real important step for me to try to get as many voices recorded, the oral history of cider as is happening in real time. And of course, last fall, when I had just landed in Bristol, at the Bristol airport, I had flown in directly from Paris after just finishing the French cider tour there, and was gearing up to do a recon for this year's Totally Cider Tour to the UK. And of course, part of that recon is scouting out cideries, walking orchards, and meeting with makers. But what I didn't know at that time was that these 2 recordings become much more than just prep work for a tour. There's a really interesting piece about the Coates Cider Company, which is no longer in existence, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But also the fact that in August, as I was gearing up for the tour, which began the last week of August, I received some news that just made me kind of drop to the floor, and essentially then tucked the audio file away until I then returned back to Cider Chat Central post the UK Cider Tour. So the first voice that you're going to be hearing is from Tom Vowles of Hedgers Cider. And that news was that I received in August is that Tom had passed away in June. And I didn't know this. It wasn't really anything that went out on social media that I could find out. And I had been corresponding with Tom up to that point. We had a conversation, and might have even been a phone call, certainly an email. And he was really excited to be meeting the tour group that I was bringing to Hedgers that week of the tour. We were planning to have lunch there and have a tour about. And I was so excited because when I had arrived last October, it was the first cidery I went to. I've been hearing about this place, Hedgers, that had essentially just opened. It was like a little over a year that had opened. Tom and his wife, Jo, did this as part of a retirement project. She as a nurse and he as a stonemason, and they were like looking at something new to do, had this land that was right next to their homestead. And you're going to hear about that history there from Tom, his own voice. And he was really gearing up. The guy was making great cider. He had this wonderful guy by the name of Trevor who worked there. He was the first person who met me and offered me a cider. Because that you walk up, well, let me back up a little bit. As you drive into Hedgers, you go through this like gate that's closed, when businesses close, and then it's open up. And on the right side is a big orchard that they planted, all cider apples. And in the distance, you see this really nice looking tasting room. And on the door, the front door, is a little black apple, which is like a door knocker. And you walk in, and there's all these tables and a bar in the distance, and a wood stove set up in a fireplace. And they have a little stage, and one of the walls where the stage is opens up. So it's this giant wall that opens up, and you can look out into the orchard. Just this really cool spot. And they were so kind to me. In fact, at CiderCon 2025, I wore the Hedgers cider t-shirt that was given to me by Tom at that time, and he took the time, and unexpected, I had just shown up, I was totally jet lagged, absolutely exhausted from the cider tour, and I was just checking out the scene, and he stopped everything that he was doing to spend that time with me. And it was kind of like mutual comrades in the spirit of cider. And we walked in the back room, and he showed me around at his cider press that you're going to be hearing about. That brings us back to Coates Cider. And I was stoked. And this is one of the audio files that I was going to release to gear people up for the cider tour. And then when I got the news, well, what to do. And, the business had, I think, shut down for about a month as I sorted through, because this was unexpected, Tom's passing. And I didn't really have much info on it. And it's not really my story to tell now. But it was definitely unexpected because there was a lot of movement going forward. But Hedgers called me up. Actually, Jo called me up and said they want to honor everything that Tom had agreed to do with the tour. And they did exactly that during the Totally Cider Tour there. We had lunch, some amazing pizzas. They have gluten-free pizzas. They even made a gluten-free, dairy-free pizza for different special diets and brought us in the back room to tour about. And that's also when I met for the first time one of Tom's children by the name of David, who is a craftsman in his own right. Tom was a stonemason, and his son David did like a post and beam type of work. And he's taking on now the role of his father. And, They essentially, Hedgers is location because of the location to Bristol. Also, it's on the main thruway. And they have such a wonderful following of people there. So I'm really holding them very close to my heart. And I hope you can too. So the first voice here that we're going to be hearing is of Tom Vowles of Hedger Cider. He welcomed me into the cider there that day, and then you're going to hear just his lively visits full of optimism, and we'll be talking about some of the machinery there and the way his family, the threads that weave us towards our future, and also the touchstone to the past. And then in the second recording, you're going to be hearing Ben Crossman, whose family history in cider making also stretches back nearly a century. And here's what makes this episode really unusual. All around the same time, I had just recorded with Nick Showering and Bob Cork all about the Showering's new triple vintage release. And at the time, I thought that these three separate stories, the Showering's, Ben Crossman's story, and Hedger's story, were all really separate. But when I finally sat down to edit this particular episode and these different audio recordings, almost a year later, the dots began to connect. I realized Tom, Ben, and the Showering, they were all circling the same point of history, which had to do with Coates Cider of Nailsea, one of the most important names that was really of the day to Somerset cider. None of them said that outright, which is kind of interesting. Tom never claimed his press once worked at Coates. Ben didn't frame his family story as running alongside Redvere's Coates. And at Showering's, the conversation about triple vintage didn't directly reference Coates' own triple vintage of 1951. But when you put these voices together, you hear it. The stories are entwined, even if the storytellers didn't know it themselves. And that's the discovery that often happens on Cider Chat. It just opens up onto a bigger reflection about history, legacy, and how cider is still navigating its identity today. We're going to be rolling out this audio recording with Tom Vowles from October 2024 in tribute to Tom himself, his family, and all those happily impacted by Hedger's cider, making this a very fine time to grab a glass and raise it high to Tom Vowles of Hedger Cider, based in Bristol, in Somerset, England. Oh, that's a good pour. Okay, all right, look at this.
So it's a bit of a mess out the back here at the moment, but I'm just getting ready for cider making. So that's a big old press.
Sure is.
So yeah, he was hydraulic water, but now he's on oil. Mm-hmm. I had to put a new ram in it. I've had, had it all apart, and basically the old pump mechanism's still in it, but it was very slow when on water. So I'll convert it over to oil, so it's more controllable now. Put all new timbers in the top.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that looks like you really painted it and everything. I bet it didn't look like that originally, did it?
No. It belonged to a local cider maker. His nickname was Spindle, but his proper name was Gerald Richards, and he used to make cider with his brother Denny. Richards is at Congsbury at Honey Hall. They went on and I retired, and they're both gone on now. Uh-huh. So I bought that off a fella, Tony Jones, who was his grandson. He works for Thatcher's Cider now. I think it was originally made for Coates Cider at Nailsea. Okay. And I imagine it was made in the shipyards in Bristol because it's all hot riveted together. So it's pretty old. It must be, I expect it's pre-1900, I expect, late 1800s.
I mean, it's a rack and press, but what do you call it when it's like not fully made out of wood? Does it have a certain name when it's all steel I-beams? And it's set into the ground there, so you're pressing and the juices...
No, the juice collects in that
collects right there and then gets pumped out.
It does about 800 litres of juice on one press.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the biggest rack and cloth press I think I have seen old wooden ones that are bigger.
I have seen wooden ones, but this is a beast.
Yeah.
How much juice do you think, percentage-wise, are you getting out? It's like 80% or like, the
something like that, I expect. Because it's usually about 600 litres from a ton of apples, and that takes over a ton to load it, and we get about 800 litres of juice out of it per press. So yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
good.
damn good. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the
absolutely.
mill there, that Boron mill. I bought that second hand from
yeah.
an apple farmer up in Kent
Boron.
he juices all his apples for apple juice. He doesn't make cider. I was lucky to get that. I mean, I bought that at the right money. That was a good investment.
That'll
So
rip through
that a mill
anything.
about 7 tons an hour if you want it to.
Wow.
And the juice collects in that stainless tray.
Yep.
Then it's pumped into this stainless tank, and then I pump it from there into the IBCs.
Nice.
Yeah, it all works well. I have a big tank outside with water in, so we tip into that and then bucket into the mill. It's all a bit, it's not very overly mechanised, but
No, it's simple, and
Yeah,
that's a
but it
massive
works.
garage door you have there.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
why so big? Because the tractor's only so big. Are you bringing?
yeah. Recently, I just took
My
this
goodness.
became available because
Okay.
I've lived here all my life, but
I see.
we've got industrial units in the old redundant buildings.
Okay.
We've renewed them over the years, and the firm that were in there went into liquidation, so I had the chance to take on these 2 bays because the new firm didn't want the whole warehouse.
Yeah.
So I can store a lot of my cider in there now, and
You
messing
sure
about.
can. You're kind of. I hear you're like getting pretty busy, huh?
Yeah.
For-
Since we opened the bar, it's really.
What do you think that's about for you? Like, why the uptick? It's just because you're location, or I mean,
yeah,
we want to see
probably.
the cider, right?
Yeah.
That's the right answer.
Yeah, but I don't know. People just come out here. I think they enjoy the cider and the atmosphere, and they're just
Yeah.
coming out in droves now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite quiet Sundays, but when we have live music on the weekends and
It's
that,
happening.
it gets busy. Yeah,
And-
I mean, busier in the summer. But I mean, when did we open? We've been open about 14 months now, and
Goodness.
it's gone well. But I mean, I offer. We got real ale and lager.
Oh, okay.
Swiss premium lager and a fully stocked bar. Yeah, people are booking in sort of parties, and we've had a few wakes up here, all sorts.
That makes sense.
People that anything really. It
Yeah.
just-
Did you just add this whole building? This is a stainless steel addition with a little bit of, burming up of the walls.
This I added on to this
Yeah.
warehouse here.
Huge ceilings. It's
yeah.
due to big expansion. Are you thinking about bringing some larger tanks in with the demand?
If I could get some the right money, I probably
Yeah, right.
would. Yeah, I'm always looking around for stuff, but
Right. Well, who knows? Wow, this is
I
fantastic.
did have a chat with Vigo down in Devon, and they were on about they might be able to get some oak vats from Spain,
All right.
northern Spain, but I haven't heard any more about it.
So oak vats, yeah. So are you doing any like oak?
No, not at the
No.
moment.
So okay, but that would be like down the line.
It's something I'd like to
Okay.
do, yeah. If I,
All right.
I've had barrels, but I had some Madeira barrels that I was using. But I'd like to get some a good sized vat so I could condition it for,
Yeah.
sort of 6 months to a year in there.
Right.
It's not everyone's cup of tea though, because it takes on more tannin flavours out the oak.
It does. I mean, you do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're selling this, sometimes it's like, why change the business model?
Yeah.
Except just increase the quantity because you have a demand. So
Yeah.
I know you'll figure that out. What kind of business did you come from before you started doing cider making?
I was farming to start with. We were my dad was dairy farming. He was milking pedigree Ayrshires when I was born. He used to farm my granddad farmed at Wraxall. He used to tenant a farm from Lord Wraxall, the Gibbses. But when he died, tenancy ended on the farm, so my dad was sort of forced to buy somewhere, and he bought this place. Then he retired from milking, and then we kept beef cattle and poultry, a lot of poultry, with chickens that were just fattened. We grew a bit of barley, malting barley, and it was only a small farm. And then when my dad passed on, I went into the building industry because I was a stonemason. Because
so you were
the
doing
farm,
this.
we couldn't make enough money out of farming, the two of us, to support us both. So, I started building a lot of houses for people locally, and then I had this retirement project to start making cider again, because my grandfather he was a cider maker.
I see.
So I sort of wanted to follow in his footsteps a bit, although I never knew him. I've heard a lot of stories about him. So and then I planted the orchard first, then put this building up, and I've just gone on from there really.
Now, about the orchard, do you put cattle out there because they're like high stem and they look like you're kind of protecting
I used to have sheep out there, but
that's what you're.
they started. The trouble is,
declining.
they were bringing them up when the grass was high, and they were leaving them out there, and they started chewing on the trees and getting on my nerves. So
Got it.
I just keep it cut now. I just top it fairly regularly and just keep it tidy.
Right.
Well, I've got plans to plant about another 300 trees in the other field there. I'm going to put in a few eating apple varieties for juicing to make apple juice, and the rest will all be cider fruit. It'll be predominantly Somerset Red Streak, Ashton Brown Jersey, and Harry Masters Jersey,
The cider that I'm drinking right now, what's the blend there that you're doing?
That's just a mix of Somerset bittersweets, really.
Okay, all right.
I can tell you what orchards it came from, but probably not every apple that's in it.
So
There's probably 5 or 6 bittersweets in there, yeah.
Now, the orchards are not necessarily your orchards. You're pulling off some local orchards while your orchard's getting going.
Established, yeah.
And how many hectares do you have here of
Of apple tree, I'll have about, once I've finished planting, there'll be about 7 to 8 acres of trees.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll buy in apples. Well, an orchard I was buying in from's recently been sold. And the fella's pally with a bloke who's making cider. You could probably go and visit them, actually. As far as I know, this is over at Abbottsley. Christopher Smith, the bloke is called. But have you heard of the Apple in Welshback in Bristol?
Yes, on the boat, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, well, the fella that's got an involvement in that, his mate has started making cider, and he's mixed up with this Chris Smith. I don't know much about them, to be honest.
Okay.
The fella that's got the Apple was out here at a party a few weeks ago. He was quite impressed with it all, I think, but that's the first time I'd met him. So I don't know how big a scale they're going in on that. Have you heard of Roger Wilkins?
Yes.
He's sort of known as the king of cider around here. He's in his 70s now. He's a really, really lovely man.
Yeah.
He gave me a lot of encouragement.
Good.
So I go down and see him. He sells lovely cheese. English cheddar and Stilton.
Good.
Lots of chutneys and stuff.
Are they making it there at the cider, or just local folks that he's bringing in?
It's local dairies that he gets it from, Barbers and White's Farm. That's up on the Mendips over towards Shepton Manor. Mm-hmm. Well, just around that area, on the way to Wincanton, really.
All right.
Yeah, he's a good bloke. He's an interesting character.
Yeah,
you'd like him, yeah.
Without a doubt, I'm hunting him down.
Yeah, Riches, they've gone quite big now. Sheppies.
And
they're quite commercial now.
What about Julian
Temperley?
Yeah,
he's down. He's big on the brandy, Julian, but he sells a lot of cider as well. He's got a big cider bus he takes to Glastonbury Festival. I mean, he's right in the heart of apple country, down that way, Martock and all down around there. That's where Harry Master came from, wasn't he? He was a Martock man when he propagated a lot of the Somerset bittersweets. We're going to have a big wassail in January.
When do you normally do the wassail?
Well, we usually try and do it traditionally on the old 12th, which is,
Right, that. Whenever that is.
It sits on about, I don't know, around about the sort of 12th of January and the 12th to the 18th, I think. Depends which calendar they follow, because
it fluctuates depending on what day of the week and what the reality of life. The heart and soul is there. Certainly the heart and soul was there with Tom Vowles that day, and I feel so honored to have met him. I wanted to go back into a couple side notes here. He mentioned a little bit about Somerset history connected to his family. Tom's father once farmed land under the tenancy from Lord Wraxall of Tentisfield Estate. And Lord Wraxall is remembered not just for his title, but for one very unusual incident. In 1988, he was kidnapped in his own home, knocked to the ground, and locked in the boot of his BMW, I believe it was, for almost 7 hours. The kidnappers were demanding the combination to his safe, but when the burglar alarm went off, they panicked, and they drove him a couple miles away, abandoned him in the woods, and made off with his wallet and credit cards. When Lord Wraxall was finally released, he kept his composure, and in true fashion, and this is according to the Times, his remark was, "Good grief, there's more room in the back than I ever thought." It's a story that has lived on in this region, and I think it gives you a taste of both the local humor and the resilient type of stamina that you also hear in Tom's voice. And now going back to the Coates Cider story, to really appreciate these links, I just want to pause for a moment and talk about the company itself. The company was founded in 1925 by Redvers Norman Coe, just outside of Nailsea in Somerset. His ambition was simple, and it was quite bold, and that was to put Somerset cider on the national stage. And at the time, Whiteways of Devon and Bulmers of Hereford were dominating the advertising campaigns and everything. And in Somerset, which was making a lot of cider, most of it was staying local. But Redvers wanted to change that. He started with a bit of innovation, installing some of the very first Swiss-made gas line vats in Britain. And it worked. His very first batches of cider won top prizes at the National Cider Competition in London. The company, though, nearly folded in the 1930s, but the Second World War changed its fortunes. Rationing and government zoning gave Coates control of Somerset, Wiltshire, and South Gloucestershire, including Bristol and Bath. Add in beer shortages and American GIs in the region, and suddenly cider sales began to surge. In the post-war years, Coates became famous for their massive oak vats, over 100 of them, some with names like Spitfire, Cleopatra, and even Adge Cutler. And in case you don't know who Adge Cutler was, he was the dreamer of the band The Wurzels, and they had that number one hit, I Am a Cider Drinker, which came out back in 1976. Continuing on with the history of Coates Cider Company, they exported cider abroad, built partnerships with breweries in London, and became known for pushing Somerset cider forward. And then, in 1951, they launched Triple Vintage and Festival Vat, ciders made from the pick of each year's apples, set aside for premium blends. This was their way of showing that cider could be refined, collectible, celebrated, and not just drunk in the local pub. By 1956, Showerings of Shepton Mallet took over Coates as part of their growing empire. They doubled production at Nailsea, powered by national advertising campaigns, but as luck had it, and history shows, they eventually closed the works in 1970. The vats were sold off, some ending up at Sheppey's, Rich's, Inches, which is up in Herefordshire, and even repurposed for maturing port in Portugal. That's the story of Coates. It was both bold, near collapse, a wartime salvation, and then was absorbed into a larger drinks empire. But, of course, the echoes are still with us, which brings us back to the triple vintage. Hopefully you've heard the podcast episodes with Nick Showering and Bob Court, the cider maker at the Shepton Mallet Mill that Showerings has now taken back, and their modern triple vintage, which is a blend of 3 different harvests. The most earliest one was 2017, 2018, and 2021, all from Somerset orchards. And it's marketed as a luxury cider, something to sit alongside wine at fine dining tables. And on the 2025 UK Cider Tour, we visited Showering Mill and tasted it ourselves, and that was a 3rd iteration of the triple vintage. But here's a link. That name, triple vintage, it isn't new. In fact, you could say it goes directly back to Coates. And what Showering is doing now, in many ways, is picking up a thread that's still sitting in Somerset's history for more than 70 years. And that's what I love about digging into these stories. You start to see the continuity. Coates trying to elevate cider in the 1950s, and Showerings carrying it forward today, and makers like Hedgers and Ben Crossman still making cider from their very orchards. And so from Hedgers, I went on to meet Ben Crossman. His story reaches back to the 1930s when his grandfather was making cider. At the very same time, Redvers Coat was building his company at Nailsea. In fact, the two men knew each other because they both worked at the Long Ashton Research Station, which was the pomological center of its time, and sadly, it's been closed now for a number of years. At one point, the two men even discussed starting a business together, and you're going to be hearing Ben talk about that. History tells us that didn't happen, and Coates scaled up, and the Crossmans kept their cider local. And Ben's going to reflect on that fork in the road and what it means to keep cider making alive in his family. His orchards still hold bittersweet varieties that define Somerset cider and his approach, which is wild ferments, careful blending, and a commitment to tradition. It's a living continuation of that history that his ancestors began. So let's next grab a glass and head to this audio snapshot with Ben Crossman of Crossman Cider, based in Weston-super-Mare.
Cider making has been part of agriculture for centuries. And in fact, the farm workers were paid in cider in the summer months. They had a cider allowance. Then all of a sudden, the orchards started to disappear, but one or two started to make it commercially, my grandfather being one of them. back in the 1930s he was making in quite a successful business. His son Raymond wasn't interested in cider making. He was more of a stockman, liked his cattle, and all the cider making equipment was just left to, just put in a shed and to deteriorate. So I just always been interested in cider making. And I just a chance remark to my grandmother one day saying, I'd like to make some cider. And she said, all the equipment's there. If you want to go and restore it, have a go. And that's how it all started. Myself and two friends put it all back together again. And it was quite a bit of considerable work to do it because there's a hand press, old engine, everything old. Everything. Anyway, we all got it up and running. Made the first batch of cider, which was Morgan Sweets. Not particularly good cider, a bit insipid, not much character to it. But anyway, that's how it all started. And as we started to sell it, it was obvious that we couldn't carry on the way we were going, which was on another site. So we had to pick up the apples, take it to the farm, press it, and bring the juice back to here to Mayfield Farm. Obviously, like I said, that's wasn't viable. It's a lot of hard work, double handling.
Sure is.
So we set up here, and over the years the business has grown.
It is growing.
And it's it's a certain level. I'm not interested in taking on the world. That's not me. We got our core.
Have them come here is the way to go.
Oh, right. We do online sales as well.
Right.
But that's quite a small part of it.
Yeah. Much nicer to have them come here.
Out the wood, out the barrel, and customers come. We got our loyal
following. Yeah,
we have got a loyal following.
Yeah,
and a bit of tourist trade as well.
How many hectares of orchards do you have?
I work in acres.
Okay, acres. Okay, good.
We do acres.
Okay, very good. I can do acres.
Hectares is also something new, I think.
Okay,
I'm Imperial.
All right, sorry.
Are you Canadian or American?
American.
Right. Okay, you're Imperial.
I'm acres.
You're acres. Okay,
yes,
right. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, we got 3 acres across the road, which is planted as a bush orchard, but it was on the wrong rootstock, and the apples, the trees got too big too quick. So 3 acres of those over there, and the varieties over there are Harry Masters Jerseys, Improved Dove, Sweet Coppins, Tremlitz Bitters, and Stembridge Jerseys are the main varieties there. I think there's 1 or 2 Dabinets out there as well. We got a 2 acre orchard over there, which is a standard orchard, and again that was here when we moved here in 1967 when my father bought that as an old established orchard, but as the trees have fallen over we've replanted so to keep the orchard going. And again varieties there, Somerset Red Streaks, Bulmers Normans, Brown Snouts, did I say Chisel Jerseys as well right there. So we got a good blend of proper bittersweet cider apples.
Yeah, it's to die for us over in America. We hear that and we're like so excited to hear what you're able to grow here so well. Classic.
Well, it's the old. You must have heard of Coates Cider, Nailsea. It's a long gone business. In fact, Mr. Coates and my grandfather basically started business together, and they used to go to what was known as the Long Ashton Research Station. And have you heard of that one?
Yes, I do. Right up the road here.
That's right. Yeah. And they did a lot of fantastic work on research, pomology, and cider. And the story goes, Mr. Coates and my grandfather went to my grandfather and said, shall we do something together? Start a business together. But his history would note that didn't happen. Coates Cider went not exactly global, but it was a big business. My grandfather was a stable business supplying local pubs, and he was sending cider to London. And in the good old days, you take your bottles to the station, they go off in their crates, and the empties would come back, as it should be.
Very sustainable.
Very sustainable. Bottles were washed, sterilised, and off they go again.
Right.
Yeah, where am I going with this one?
Well, talking a little bit about the history there of your family and whatnot.
That's right, and like I say, my uncle wasn't interested. I resurrected. It's been pointed out that Coates Cider doesn't exist anymore, but my grandfather's business does in the guise of me. And I got a second cousin now, he's doing it as well. And we share the same grandfather. Gangley Nash, he's making cider exactly where we started, back at Stonehouse Farm in Ken.
Okay.
But it's his second job, he's into research and development. I think he does wind turbines, is his main And this is...
Is this your main job? It looks like you have,
No,
a
hens.
lumber going. And,
we got lots of things.
Hens,
we
the
got
chicken
hens.
coop there, yeah. Okay.
I've got 5,000 hens out there.
All right,
That's the main core of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I do outside contract work, logs, compost.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a bit of everything. Got to.
Yeah.
You've got to diversify, because when one thing's up, something else is down, then hopefully
that's right.
There's swings and roundabouts.
Now, your cider making, what is your style? It's all wild ferment. Are you fermenting in the barrels or in stainless steel or?
In Rotoplast.
Okay, IBC tanks, yeah.
Well, IBC or Rotoplast, same thing.
Right.
Food grade, stuff. So that's how we do it. Again, apples are harvested, washed, milled, pressed.
What kind of press are you using?
It's an old Beers hydraulic press.
That's a rack and cloth.
Rack and cloth. Yeah, it's a 100-ton hydraulic press. Yeah, it's all labour intensive.
It is
a lot
very
of shoveling.
labour intensive, yeah.
A lot of shoveling.
Yeah.
But then again, I make such a relatively small amount by the, on the global scale of things that, we can just about cope with that. Now, most people have moved on to belt presses.
Yeah, they kind of up the ante. So folks who come here, you have the apples, you press in the season, that's it, it's done, and then you ferment and condition.
I think the trick is what I do. I always make a note of where the apples have come from. Obviously, the tanks are numbered. I know where those apples have come from, and I know what varieties are in there and that possible characteristic of that cider, because as you probably know, or you would know, that the art of the cider making is in the blend. The classic case was everybody said, do a tremulous bitter, a single variety. Okay, I did it. Nobody liked it. It was just too intense, as the name suggests. Very, very high in tannin,
tremulous
very bitter. Right. I tried to tone it down a bit. They still didn't like it. Anyway, I had a neighbour come in. He made some cider with some eating apples, and it was insipid, weak, lacking character. I said, I know what I'll do with that. We just blend tremolets and yours 50-50, and it was a perfectly balanced cider. He said, how do you do that? And he said, well,
it's in your head.
It's the knowledge.
The wisdom
the blend.
over years.
Yeah, we'll go back to
blend. But also your yeast, because it's you're not adding any kind of cultured yeast.
No, the only time I do use a cultured yeast if I get stuck fermentation. Because a lot of the orchards around here are old orchards, and the nitrogen is being depleted.
Yes.
And as you know, that the yeast needs nitrogen to feed on. And it will get a stuck fermentation. Particularly one orchard that I use up at Abbottsley, which is, as a matter of fact, one of the old Coates orchards, planted in 1952. Really, really old trees, and they've obviously sucked all the nitrogen out of the ground, and you do tend to get stuck fermentations with it. So what I do there is a yeast nutrient and some cultured yeast, and probably a little bit of sugar, just to kick
it on.
Get it going again.
So you're not doing any kind of keeved cider at all? No, too much of a...
No, we can't be bothering with that.
Right.
It is what it is. Traditional farmhouse cider. People say they're so used to the fruit ciders and the modern ciders the factories churn out. It's completely end of the scale. Different at the other end of the scale for that.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
And it's delicious. I had your a taste of it, and it was smooth, and no acidic, taste at all. It was really spot on. So I was like, my body went. Hearing Tom and Ben back to back while I was doing the editing, I couldn't help but circle back to cider's identity, which is really one of those things that for the industry is in our forefront. What is the identity of cider? Because here's the truth. Cider doesn't need to prove itself worthy of a place at the table. It already owns the table. In the 17th and 18th century, in England, cider was celebrated in Parliament, and perry was being compared to champagne. These drinks were not rustic afterthoughts. They were prestige. But things shifted. Industrial beer took over the pubs. Wine built its glamour through imports and branding, and cider slipped into the margins. It was a slow slip, but it slipped nonetheless. And that raises the question, can something that once ruled and then fell so far come back? Well, I think it can. We've seen it happen before. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but take vinyl records. Written off as dead when CDs and streaming arrived, vinyl has made a roaring comeback. because people crave that physical connection to music. Or think about artisan bread. For decades, industrial loaves filled supermarket shelves. Then sourdough, heritage grains, and small bakeries reminded us what real bread could taste like. And people, we responded. Cider has that same opportunity. But it's not about one flashy release or a clever marketing line. It's all about consistency in quality and proving harvest after harvest that what's in the glass is worth people's trust. That's part of what Totally Cider Tours is all about, connecting people with orchard, presses, and the hands that do the work. And yes, cider can be fine, elegant. It could be deserving of a seat at a white tablecloth dinner because it owns that tablecloth. But it can't afford to tip into snobbery that has haunted wine. Its strength is in being both refined and rooted, which actually brings me back to Cutler and his band, the Wurlzers. Wurlzers translates to roots, which I think is an interesting little side note. So cider, though a premium product, needs to remain welcoming. That balance, held steady, will let cider not just continue to rebound, but hold its ground for a very long, long haul ahead. And somehow we're in it all together here at Cider Chat. So I thank you for your time and let me do a little bit of a deep dive here and connect the dots. Because as I go along on this journey with you out there in Ciderville, I keep on seeing our history unfold together as we savor and sip every glass that comes our way and elevate the palms that make it happen, all while we're having a blast. And with that, I leave you here. This is Real Windcaller signing off for now. Looking forward to seeing you in Ciderville.
We like cider, we like palms, we love orchards and having fun. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes there is. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes there is. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Oh yes there is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. We like cider, we like palms, we like orchards, having some fun. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes there is. There is a reason why we do it like this. Oh yes there is. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Oh yes there is. There is a reason. We like walking through the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. Oh yeah. We like cider. Oh yes we do. We like palms. Oh yes we do. We love orchards, having some fun. There is a reason why we do it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. There is a reason why we do it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. There is a reason why we drink it like this. Ba-da-da-dum. Ba-da-da-dum. We like walking down the orchards, dancing in the streets, smelling all the blossoms, kicking up our feet. Oh yeah. We like cider. Ba-da-da-dum. We like palms. Oh yes we do. We like orchards, having some fun.
Yeehaw!